That was weird. Hi! This book review is on Wishful Drinking by Carrie Fisher. If you don't know who Carrie Fisher is, you need to educate yourself, because she is like the legendary Princess Leia, who on the cover has an empty martini and pills next to her. Carrie Fisher is absolutely hilarious. Like, this book, I burst out laughing so many times while reading it. It's just fabulous. When I opened the book and read the dedication page, it really touched my heart. She dedicated the book to her daughter, but the way she did it, you can just tell, just how much light Carrie's daughter Billy brings into her life. The dedication reads, "To my DNA jackpot, my daughter Billy. For all you are and all you will be. I want to be you when I grow up." How sweet is that? I mean, honestly, I ask you, how amazing is that? I know people dedicate their books to their kids all the time, but that one, just how she worded it was beautiful. I loved it. Anyways, moving on from the dedication page, because there's so much more to the book than that. So the book is a memoir. So she does talk a lot about her life. She talks about her parents, her father, singer Eddie Fisher, and her mother, the legendary actress, the wonderful Debbie Reynolds. Carrie talks about growing up in Hollywood, her adolescence into adulthood up to the age of 52, which is how old she was when this book was released. She talks about Star Wars, obviously. How could she not? That kind of shaped her life from the time she was 19. And yeah, she covers stuff from, her marriage to Paul Simon, to waking up with a dead friend in her bed. Lots of different things she covers in this book. So Carrie has said, "If my life wasn't funny, it would be true, and that's unacceptable." And when you read this, you really can tell that she does live by that. She makes every situation funny somehow. She doesn't just let a bad situation stay bad or negative. She makes it funny somehow. She brings humor into almost every single story she tells, even if it wasn't necessarily funny at the time it happened. And only Carrie could somehow tie a history lesson that involves Charles II of Spain, who lived in I think from about 1661 to 1700. Only she could tie Charles II of Spain in with a Hollywood 101 lesson. How she did it, I don't know. She somehow made it so you had Hollywood 101 to Charles II of Spain to Hollywood 101 again. It was really odd, really different, and I think she's the only one who could ever make that somehow connect the way it did in the book. So she tells a lot of stories, obviously. She covers her whole life. But one that really sticks out in my mind personally is one about her brother, when he shot himself in the leg with a blank. And it's not so much about her brother, it's about everyone else. Like, her brother shooting himself was the catalyst for the entire story, and it was just really funny. I had to read it a couple of times. I read it first to myself, laughed out loud, then I had to stop what I was doing and go read it to my dad, who was with me at the time, and read it to him. And then a while later, after I had read farther on, I stopped what I was reading and read it to my mom. Mom didn't find it quite as funny, but Dad did, and I found it absolutely hilarious. There were a number of stories like that. But yeah, Carrie is absolutely brilliant. She's a brilliant writer. Her writing is really easy to follow, but the way in which she uses words is truly beautiful. You can really tell she loves words. She is clever. She has a great sense of humor. She's very witty and funny. And witty and funny are both two different things, and she has them both, so that's fabulous. She's really clever as well, obviously, as demonstrated with the whole Charles II of Spain and Hollywood 101. This book is based off of her one-woman show that she did. HBO also filmed it and released the show as a documentary. While a lot of what was in the show is in the book, there's a few extras in the book. and those extras are definitely worth the book. I mean, the book itself is worth it, but yeah, it's just great. Carrie describes herself as having too much personality for one person, but not enough for two. And that is probably the most accurate description of Carrie Fisher that I have ever heard in my life. It's just fabulous. This book was really easy to follow along to as well, and I loved the print. The print was really quite, it was larger and spaced out, so when I read this I had a really bad headache that day, and it made it so easy to read because it wasn't all just like condensed. It was spread out a little bit, and her language, she doesn't use words where you need to look them up, which is also a huge bonus, but you can really tell that words are something she really loves. Now, yes, I am a fan of Star Wars. I am wearing a Star Wars t-shirt right now. I'm a nerd, and I am not ashamed of that at all. Star Wars is the best, and I am working really hard not to make a lot of Star Wars references while I film this. But while I am a Star Wars nerd, that is not the reason why I read Carrie's book. I will openly admit that. I actually wanted to read her book because of how open Carrie is with her battle with mental illness. Mental illness stigma is huge. It is still so massive, and there's no need for it to be. So I really wanted to read her book because of that, because she uses her voice and her celebrity to bring awareness and have a voice for mental illness, and she has done so for years. She talks about bipolar disorder, which is a mental illness that she deals with on a daily basis. You know, that's one that is life. She does work with that every single day of her life. She takes medication, and that's a daily reminder, not just daily, but multiple times a day. It's like diabetes, where you're never truly free of it because you always have that reminder when you have to take the insulin, much like Carrie, where with bipolar disorder, she's having to take medication 2 or 3 times a day to help keep that under control, so she's never free of it. With mental illness, the stigma's huge. Like, I'll get back to Carrie's story in a sec, but mental illness is so, the stigma is so huge around it. People are afraid to admit they have mental illness, or afraid to get help for it. If it were a broken arm or a sprained ankle or something, you would go to the doctor and get medical help. But somehow when it's our brains, we don't do that. And that makes absolutely no sense, because we can be physically so healthy. We could go to the gym and work out a whole bunch. We could eat totally healthy, no junk food or processed food. And that's all fine and dandy. But we truly will not be healthy if our brain isn't healthy. You know, you need this to be healthy in order to have everything else be healthy in the body. And with myself personally, I know I was always, with friends who had mental illness or whatever, I was always very supportive of them. I would do whatever I could to support them in their journey. But when it came to my own struggles with my mental health, as soon as I had something wrong, I couldn't tell anyone. And that's when I really realized the true effect of the stigma. Like, even though I had always been, no, that stigma's not there, I am totally with you and supporting you, as soon as it was now me with the mental health issues, I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't ask for help. I couldn't talk to anyone. I was afraid to admit it. I hid it. You know, I did a lot, and I really wish I would have had the courage to just ask for help sooner than I did. I wish I wouldn't have had, I wish I hadn't felt like I needed to handle so much of my personal battle alone. I wish I could have had other people helping me and being there with me for that a lot sooner than I allowed people to be. So yeah, mental health is a huge thing that I want to bring awareness to, that like we need to break the stigma, and Carrie has been working with that for years, like I said, which is why I've read her book. So Carrie talks a lot about bipolar disorder. She mentions very briefly that she also suffered from PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. And with PTSD, that's another one. It's not just for soldiers. When we think PTSD, we think of people who have gone to war. But it is a disease for anyone. Anyone who experiences something traumatic could end up having PTSD. I'm not saying you will. I'm not saying you will have PTSD, but it's not just for servicemen and women. It is a disease that can affect everyone or anyone. It's not for what we've been pigeonholed to believe. So yeah, she does briefly mention her struggle with PTSD. Now, with bipolar disorder, it is a chemical imbalance in the brain, which results in really intense mood swings. So there's the manic stage where you're going a million miles a minute and you're kind of blah, 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 blah. And then there's the depressed side, where, you aren't necessarily suicidal with bipolar disorder during the down times, but you're definitely down, like depressed. Bipolar disorder, from what I read, in addition to Carrie's book, there are times when there are well times, so you're just normal, but those swings happen so regularly that it's often treated with medication and therapy and such. Carrie talked about partaking in electroconvulsive therapy for her depression. ECT, as it's known, often has a bad rep because it's talked about in Hollywood as being, this thing where you're getting electrocuted and you're convulsing like crazy. Like, that was really disturbing. Oh my god. Anyways, it's portrayed really badly in Hollywood and such. It's not at all like that. Back in the day when it was first discovered, electroconvulsive therapy or shock therapy, it was a bit more similar to how it's portrayed in Hollywood, but it's not at all like that now. Everything I'm about to say about ECT, I either got out of Carrie's book or off of Mayo Clinic's website. ECT, when you go in to get the therapy done, you are put under a general anesthetic, so you are asleep during the procedure. And what happens is you get two little things attached to your head, and basically what happens is they let out a small electric current that will give chemical changes to the brain. So it'll change your brain chemistry, which helps deal with the depression. And how it does that is by these electric currents going through you, it gives the patient a seizure. These seizures last less than 60 seconds, a seizure, and they're meant to change your brain chemistry. And with it changing the brain chemistry, it is good for treatment for things like depression or bipolar disorder. It's good for a number of other things as well. I won't list them all. This is generally used when other forms of treatment or medication have not worked to treat the bipolar or depression or whatever it is that the doctors are recommending ECT for. So it is safe and it is healthy, but there's usually things they like to try first and use this kind of as a last case scenario. That is enough of my mental health spiel for today. Just know if you are dealing with something, please go get help. Know you're not alone. Please go ask for help. Go seek help. Ask a friend. If you can't ask a friend, get a therapist. I mean, I know it sounds really weird. Why would you talk to a therapist about things, your deepest, darkest personal things, when you can't talk to your family or your friends about it? There's something about a therapist that kind of breaks the rules, and it is when you find the right fit, and it doesn't always happen right away. Sometimes you have to try a few different therapists, but when you find the right fit, it can really help. So anyways, Wishful Drinking by Carrie Fisher. I would highly recommend this book. It was so entertaining. She doesn't just talk about mental health like I just talked about, but I felt it was something that really needed to be touched on and addressed in this video. Yeah, it's really entertaining, very witty. She talks about so many different things. For Star Wars fans, yes, she does talk about Star Wars. She doesn't talk about it a whole lot, but she does bring it up a few times throughout the book. I really enjoyed it. I'll be reading it again in the future, I won't lie. It was great. Happy reading, and may the Force be with you. Dang it, I was doing so good about those cheesy, corny Star Wars references until then. Sorry. Bye.